Hey everybody, this is Toby Eunice from A Gypsy Kiss. Stick with me a couple of seconds and I'll introduce you to searcher Jonathan Jones. So this interview is the 11th in the series of It's All About You interviews with Forrest Fenn, treasure searchers, and the community. If you'd like to participate in this program, you can start by filling out the form at http://questionnaire.agypsieskiss.tv. We do have a list of about 70 people right now, all interested in doing that, and we're working our way down that list, so we'll get to you eventually. And we may ask you, as we did with Jonathan, by the time we get to you, to update your questionnaire so that we're assured that we have accurate information on your search. So, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
That's good to have you here. Now, I should tell the audience that there's going to be a slight delay between my conversation and Jonathan's because Jonathan is in the UK, the United Kingdom. And whereabouts in the UK are you, Jonathan?
We're near to Manchester.
Manchester. And do me a favor, for those of us that don't know, everybody kind of knows where London is. Where is Manchester in relation to London?
It's a long way away, so it's I guess halfway between Scotland and London. So it's halfway.
Yeah, that's right. And famous for its football team, correct?
It is, but in this household we support Liverpool. So
oh, interesting. Oh, that's very interesting. So it's not. Is it Man U, Manchester United? Is that correct?
Yeah. Man U.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's tell the audience a little bit about Jonathan Jones. Who is Jonathan Jones?
So I'm Jonathan Jones. A lot of people call me Jono Jones. I'm a senior IT manager after quite a large team that create websites and apps. I live in Warrington, which is near Manchester. I'm actually Welsh, so I'm originally from Wales, like Tom Jones. Very proud of Tom. And I live with my partner and my two children. And they keep me very busy and restrict the time I get sometimes on the hunt.
And how long have you lived near Manchester?
We've been here 13 years now, so moved over from Wales for work. But it's a great place to live. Really nice for the kids.
I've been to Wales for the TT, and I know what beautiful country that is. What caused you to move closer to the city life that you find in Manchester?
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, I grew up in a town called Llandudno, a seaside resort, but there's just no work around there, so it really is for work. But it's just as lovely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the treasure. So before I get started with the questions, I know that you and your family just spent about a month, if I remember correctly, here in the U.S. looking for the treasure. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? Tell me about your travels, your recent travels over here.
Yeah, sure. We were originally coming last summer, but we left it a little bit too late and prices were really high. So what we did last summer was booked a flight to New York, and then 5 weeks later a flight back from New York back to Manchester. So we kind of committed ourselves, so we had to do it this year round. And come January, just started booking various places around America. Obviously, we know America very well. We get a lot of TV shows over here from America. And we went to see all the big places, but also some of the smaller places that you don't perhaps normally see when you can do travels like that. So it was quite an epic journey. We started in New York, which was really amazing. I often go places and I'm underwhelmed with what I see versus what I see on videos. But most things in New York were better than what they look like on TV. Absolutely amazing. We went up to Buffalo then and drove to Toronto via Niagara Falls, which was great. we flew down to Atlanta, and we're massive fans of the Walking Dead show. So we went down to Sonoya, I think it is, down there, and saw the sets. We big fans, so we were geeking out a little bit at that. That was amazing. Went down to Miami, spent a bit of time down there, amazing beaches. Drove up, had to do the Disney and Universal thing for the kids. We were there for quite a while. Went back down to Miami, and then across to Las Vegas. Didn't see Kalamazoo, but we did go across to the Grand Canyon, which was mind-blowingly big. It was amazing. It really was. We went back to Las Vegas, and then we were up to Yellowstone. And I have to admit, throughout the first part of the trip, Yellowstone was what was on my mind constantly. I had to keep reminding myself we're having a great holiday in the moment. We'll talk a bit about that later. From there, we went over to San Francisco, drove all the way down to Malibu Beach, stayed on there, which was amazing, saw dolphins and all sorts, down to LA, and then back across to New York, and then back home. We didn't really stop a lot. We were worn out by the end of it, so it was brilliant.
And how long total were you in the U.S.?
5.5 weeks.
What an amazing vacation. Well, based on your description, you certainly hit all the high spots from New York to Miami to Malibu and through Las Vegas and Yellowstone. Those really are some of the most beautiful places in the U.S. with lots more to offer, of course. And of course, I'm biased. Were you driving, flying? How were you traveling?
I think we had 9 to 5 minutes. So we got to sample quite a few airports and have some do it really well and some do it really badly. And I think New York was probably the worst. But flying into both of them was amazing. Such a small airport. Bus and security. It was a breath of fresh air. It really was. Very old-fashioned in a quaint way, but lovely. But we drove some of it, so it was a bit of a road trip for the Miami to Orlando. I think we went via the Everglades, saw some alligators there. And it was a road trip from San Francisco down to LA.
One of my daughters lives in Boca Raton, which is north of Miami, of course, right along the edge of the Everglades. So I get out there a couple of times a year to visit with my daughter and my granddaughter. So beautiful area, though. Unfortunately, I'm not a beach person. My children all are, but I'm not a beach person. All right, let's talk a little bit about your search. And why don't you tell us when exactly you got started in all this? I know you're a relatively new searcher.
Yeah. I mean, in planning the holiday, I wanted to do something for the kids. It was a bit adventurous. It started out as a search for gold panning. And there'd just been an article, I think it was the Independent maybe, and I saw this article about Forrest Fenn and this treasure, reading into it, and I was just amazed that there was this treasure that hadn't been found. I'd seen a lot of modern treasures. They were all based on puzzles that were maths based or something, and very bright people would solve them very quickly, and I wasn't really a fan of those because they're solved before you get there. But there's something about this, I guess, that it wasn't about that or ciphers or codes, and it hit me more than the others, I guess. And I read a lot more about it. I think I started with videos. A local Santa Fe reporter, I forget her name, I think she did a couple every year for a bit. And then I just started consuming everything. I ordered the Thrill of the Chase. I went on forums, everything I could find, and it just became a thing every night then, looking. And I think I'm a bit stubborn with things, so I didn't want to try and get a newbie solved. So my first solve was that, and it was very, very weak links to things, no place for the meek, or that looks a bit dangerous, that must be that. And so I had to get that out of my system. And this second solve, I guess, spent an awful lot of time on it, really scrutinizing. And one of the things I always thought was, because I can't just go there, I have to make sure it's right. It costs so much money to go there, probably once a year. So I've got to put a lot of effort in. So I wanted to make sure every single clue had a really strong solve, or it just wasn't worth doing. And I think I got that in the end, but yeah. who knows?
Well, your travels remind me of my friend Michael Hool, who does it from Tokyo and has to do the same kind of planning just because of the expense. He can't be far off in terms of what he's trying to accomplish with each one of those trips. So obviously, maybe the answer to this question is obvious, but in what state do you think Fenn hid the treasure?
Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that that stimulated the interest in looking for the treasure? How suddenly did you find yourself a treasure hunter?
So it was just looking for the gold panning. Something simple, exciting for kids. When I told the kids about it, they were really, really excited. But I mean, I grew up watching things like The Goonies. I think a few people have said that in the past. That excitement of a modern day treasure, you kind of think it's all done and dusted in history, but we have a modern day, really exciting treasure hunt. Thank you for that, and it just hooked me.
It's funny because if I were to categorize the things that people mention as having an interest, the top three are probably panning for gold, which is how I got into it, The Goonies, and the National Treasure series of movies, like just that kind of excitement and refreshment in one's life. So you obviously, in your travels, didn't recover the treasure this time, and we're coming very close to the end of the summer search season. Although it could probably go on easily another couple of months. When do you think the Fenn treasure will be recovered?
I mean, I've just done a video around myself. I'm really keen to share what I've experienced there. And there's a lot of talk, I guess, in the forums on the videos at the minute around, is it as simple as these instructions, a map? It's something a bit more, not so cryptic, but there's another way of thinking about it. And there's three trains of thought for me now, I guess. And I've been back a week, just getting over jet lag, and I'm just thinking I need to spend more time not just thinking about one way and one soul. So I'm going to start thinking about different areas, open to other ideas. I'm going to start thinking about other ways of thinking about it. And I guess the third one is that chance that maybe you do need to be there, and then just have a little bit to think about that. Based on that and the way that everyone's almost changing the way they're thinking, I think maybe next summer.
So that's interesting that you're seeing this trend migrating away from one way of thinking to another way of thinking. Tell me a little bit about what one way was and now the other way was. What are you seeing in the social media, the forums, and the YouTube channels?
Yeah. I mean, to support that a little bit, I remember some of the earlier videos I consumed from Forrest Fenn. Very early days, he was very clear. Read the poem, read the book, memorize the poem, read the book again, and it felt like it was all just about this book. And the puzzle really was, you'll have an epiphany, you'll spot something, and because of what you now know, having memorized the book to an extent, in the poem, and you'll match it with a really good map, and you're off. And that's the aim of the game. And him saying things like simplify and trying to drag things back. Feels like perhaps it is just that, and we've missed something. I know he said things like word, and I think I don't know. I guess the original way is very much begin it where warm water's halt. The only things that are open are things that you could consider as warm water's halting. Is there another way to think about that? Is it warm salt was a crossword hint, and then you go up with a word, and then that word is what you're looking for on the map. So it's almost like an abstracted clue. And is that a way of thinking about it? So I'm just going through the motions on that, because you just think 8 years, someone would have solved it, surely. It's just about, so many people in different areas. So just another way of thinking.
We did a show a month or so ago on the conclusion, our conclusion, certainly not substantiated, it was an opinion, that he may have over-engineered it for the rest of us, right? For him, it sounds simple. But I do like that concept that you just mentioned, if you treat it like a crossword puzzle. So if you saw the phrase warm waters halt in a crossword puzzle, what would be the one word. That's a very interesting way to look at it. I hadn't thought about that before, but that's really interesting. I'll have to go back and do some stuff. So
I wonder whether Forrest is a bit too close.
Yeah.
And just it's all very clear in his head, clearly, obviously. And I wonder whether he often thinks about that, and that's why he keeps, he stops giving hints and then he gives a few hints. I just wonder if the reason is a little bit, but not too far based on. Yeah.
So how much, I'm not going to ask you to share your solution, but tell me about the part of your trip that you and your family spent in Yellowstone.
So we were there for 4.5 days, I think it was. We stayed in Gardner, close to where our soul was, in Best Western there. It's really nice. When I started doing this, my partner took the mickey a little bit, and then I took her through my solve, and she was quite taken in the end. So I took the mickey out of her then. And I thought she wouldn't let me have much time at all, but she let me have two boots on the ground, 2 days worth, which was great, and 2 days of sightseeing, I guess. On the first day, where we really went for it, I think after about 4 or 5 hours, I think I'd had enough, but she wanted to carry on, so I think we'd reverse roles at that point. Yeah, we got to see all the major parts of it, and I think if you do go there, you've got the obvious things like Old Faithful, Grand Prismatic Spring. There's some lovely small springs off the beaten track that it's worth researching and going to see as well. And the Grand Prismatic Spring, the obvious off the road route to it's fine, but you can't see very much. But there's a lovely overview of it, and you get to see wonderful rainbow colours on it. And it's a pretty amazing place. Yeah.
Lots of time for picture taking during that trip, I imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So there you are in Yellowstone. We think of it as one of the gems of the national park system. I know there are places in both the UK and Western Europe that are just as beautiful, but what was most striking about that area of, the Gardner area surrounding West Yellowstone, the mountains, the Gallatins, et cetera, what struck you about it?
So coming from Wales, we've got loads of mountains. Mount Snowdon. If anyone's ever over in the UK, do go to Mount Snowdon. It's amazing. I think the thing that struck me was just the wide expanse of it all. I don't think in the UK you get to see that far wherever you are.
Right.
You could see so much out there, so many mountains in the distance. But just how active it was. Being by in our solve a creek. Was lovely with the pine trees, lovely smells there, and there's some similarities with some lovely places in Wales. But I think just the active parts of Yellowstone, a pool of mud bubbling away or something. It's alive up there. It's amazing.
So you went during the summer season, which is a very active time in any of the national parks, but as I said, especially Yellowstone. How did you feel about being surrounded by those big crowds?
Do you know what? I don't think it was as busy as I'd envisaged. I think some of the things that constantly when I'm walking around, quotes from Fenn were coming to mind, and one of them being, he parked his car and there was no one around. And so I'd park my car, and if there's 10 cars there, I think, oh, this just can't be it. There was one place we did get to where there was only one space, and it wasn't obvious you could go down there, and I thought, oh, this could be something like that. But it was a lot quieter than I thought. I think they'd had fires, and it was a bit misty mixed with smoke. Maybe that put some people off, I don't know, but I thought it was quite quiet. And it was really good. I think they had some roadworks on our route, and they were told you to expect delays of about half an hour, but to be fair, it cleared pretty quickly, so I think we were lucky.
How much of an opportunity did you have to meet with other searchers while you were here?
I didn't, but when the coins were sent out by Kaulazar, he won't forgive me for this, I'm sure. He accidentally sent the wrong coins to me and someone who's down the road. And I didn't know they were down here.
Oh, interesting.
I went to deliver them to them, and do you know what? what was going to be 10 minutes. We stayed for a few hours talking about the chase, and that was a lovely conversation to have someone, because just no one knows about it over here, to talk to about. So, but other than that, no. I did email Dale because I was a bit scared about bears, and he probably gets 1,000 of those requests, so he politely declined. He wasn't in the area at the time, but yeah, no, it's a shame. Didn't get to see anyone.
So we're aware of the number of books that Fenn has published, but he's published what he refers to as his 3 memoirs. Which of the 3 memoirs did you buy, and why did you make those choices?
I mean, I did a lot of research before I got the first book, but the first one was The Thrill of the Chase. I think there's a sample on his website, and it was frustrating to be able to read that but not be able to read the rest. And reading people's references to it, I thought, I've just got to get it. And it cost quite a bit to ship it over, but I got that one first. Read that, I don't know, about 7 times now, I think, something like that. And then I mean, my solve hasn't changed much. I was really certain, and I went into a couple of months of trying to disprove it and find something else. And so I bought Too Far to Walk as part of that. I wanted to read something there to disprove what I was thinking. I didn't get much from that. I've only read that twice, so I'm still to get much out of that. But they're the 2 that I've got, and I'm just looking at the prices of Once Upon a While now.
And the shipping costs, because if you're shipping from the collected works, which apparently uses very good shipping quality, it can get double the price of shipping it to the UK. So you've had your first adventure here in the US looking for the treasure. When people come back from their first boots on the ground, they tend to be in one of 3 states. And I don't mean states, physical states, I mean mental states. And one of them is, oh, damn it, it's just, the treasure's not there, it's just a hoax. Or somebody got there before I had the perfect solve, and somebody got there before I did so. And that's one state. The second state is I didn't find the treasure, but I know it's out there, and now I have to figure out where it's at because it wasn't where I expected it to be. And the third state is I'm selling my house and I'm moving to the U.S. and I'm going to spend the rest of my life looking for that treasure. Where are you in those states?
Probably more towards the middle. I mean, my immediate thought, it's such a down feeling, isn't it, when you don't find the treasure and you're like, oh my God. And then I remember when I was looking, I mean, our solve took you to a spot which shouldn't have been too good to search around. It was dependent on coming around the corner, seeing a huge rock formation, the point that happens, look down, whatever that means, and then you find it. And I guess in my mind I was thinking, you know, the problem with this is, you know, it was very dependent on how tall you were. You know, I'm 6 foot. I see it sooner than someone else would, and that adds 20 meters maybe to it. And then when you're there, you're looking around and you're thinking, crikey, this is, you know, I didn't want to feel like this is so big, but I did. I mean, the video I've made, I go through what the area was like, this and the other, show some pictures of it, but still, even it was quite enclosed, but it's still really, really big. And I just felt from some of the things Fenn has said, it's got to be more obvious than that. You've got to have a certainty. But yeah, I mean, I've come back thinking, you know, what can I do over the next year? So I can't go for another year, really. I want to be part of the community. I want to contribute. And the thought of going year after year and it's not solved, it'd be lovely to step into a more crowd-solving situation. And that's why I'm revealing my solve in a video, in a hope that there's more sharing around it. And that I think with other treasure hunts, you tend to find that, you know, clue 1's been solved and everyone knows. Clue 2's been solved. With this, no one knows, and it's hard to share because you might give it away. So it's all or nothing. it happens. It hasn't. It hasn't.
The other problem with crowdsolving that we've experienced is everybody is so tied to their own solve, it excludes the potential that there is any other solution. And it takes, you know, a number of boots on the ground before you start opening up to the idea that you've come to, and that is, I've got to do something different. I've got to do something different. One of the reasons, one of the fundamental objectives of us establishing this channel was for the potential of crowdsolving, and we're working towards that. We get a lot of criticism for coming up with crazy ideas, you know, wormholes, etc. But that's all designed to stimulate some sort of conversation that move this all forward. So you mentioned your video, so let's talk about that for just a little bit, and then tell us where the audience can find the video. I assume it's on YouTube, and then make sure that when we're done, you send me a link so I can post the link to the description box below.
Okay. I've changed my YouTube channel. Actually, I had it as John O'Jones, but I was slightly jealous that everyone else has got a nickname, so I've changed Brit Chaser now. Brit Chaser. I may change it. Who knows? It's only just been uploaded. I can send a link, but
all right.
I just wanted to take through the thinking behind it completely. I think there's a couple of things in there I've not seen on the internet. A couple of places that aren't listed on Google Maps. You have to have a nice proper map to see them. So I was constantly thinking, why has no one solved it like this? Why is no? And I've got some reasons why I think on that, and a nice link with Fenn and his past the Buffalo Bill Centre, which is key for me in the home of Brown. But for me, I guess I'm hoping that you know, it might inspire some people, but it might also change the way newbies are thinking. Because I see a lot of solves where there's a couple of good links, but the rest that almost will just brush over that. That must mean that there's no way that's going to be the solve. So if at least it gets newbies a bit further on before they start spending money, and then hopelessly find themselves nowhere near, then that'll be enough.
Well, speaking of new searchers, we just had an influx of new searchers from the BuzzFeed video that got a lot of attention. So there are new searchers out there. Now that you've had your first boots on the ground, likely more expensive than most searchers who are coming from other locations in the United States, what advice would you give to new searchers, and irrespective of from whence they came, whether it's they're coming all the way from Europe or you know, Asia, what advice would you give to that new searcher?
I guess it's different. I mean, I'm a bit biased in that I think that you can get quite far. I think from home. I think Fenn's contradicts himself somewhat through the years. So I think early doors it sounded very much like you could work a lot out and be very sure if you went. Because it doesn't strike me that if you only know the first couple of clues, when you get there, which could be one of thousands of places, you'll suddenly see things and work it out. It just feels like that's not possible in the reality. So, and yeah, I guess later on, you almost insinuated that you needed to only know a few, and then you have to get boots on the ground. So I think he's contradicting himself a bit. I would say, because it's costly, do more research, try and find out where you go. Have a look at Google Earth. In some places it resembles it a bit, some places it's miles out. Assume that whichever route you go is going to be harder than you think. Carry bear spray. And I think book early. So our flights, I think we flew with Allegiant from Las Vegas, and they were the cheapest of the whole holiday because we booked them so far in advance. The cost can be huge, but if you book early, get cheaper rental car, cheaper plane. I think that's what I'd recommend, and give yourself enough days, because you'll learn a lot on the first day. Have enough time at night, take the book with you, and you can do some research at night and adapt while you're there, because you only get one job.
So in the context of your search for the treasure, what are your plans for the next, let's say, 12 months?
I think I'm at the point where I just want to contribute to others, getting progressively close. I had a bit of a moment where I was thinking, what is it about this I really want? Is it the value, finding it? or is it the sense of solving it? And I think at this point, I'm at the point where the sense of solving it would feel really good. And if that was done with others, I think it'd equally be as good. So I'll start with my video. Love to hear people's critique of that.
Oh, and you will.
Oh yeah. And just contribute to others, getting closer, I guess. If someone found it off the back of some of my contributions between now and then, that'd feel great. And then I guess a lot of my own thinking for next year, maybe come back in August, do a few other bits that we missed in America, and go back with another solve maybe, or maybe refine this.
Well, I don't know necessarily that your solution will end up in New Mexico, but if you find yourself down in this area, make sure to let Shelley and I know, because we'd love to meet your lovely family and perhaps have a lunch, a dinner, or even a cup of coffee together. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for your time. I know that you and I have been working out the scheduling over a week or so here, and I'm glad we finally could get together to do this interview. I'm very grateful that you took the time to do it. I believe it's a great interview. For those of you that want to participate in our It's All About You series of interviews, your first step in doing that is filling out the questionnaire at http://questionnaire.agypsieskiss.tv. You're at the bottom, if you do it today, of a long list of people who have volunteered for the interview, but we promise to get to everyone on that list eventually. We'd like to have as many of these interviews produced as possible. Jonathan, again, thank you very much for your time. Good luck to you in your search. We look forward to seeing you not only on social media, but in our chat rooms with your willingness to share the information that you've collected thus far. And I love anybody who's a big fan of crowd solving and an IT professional at the same time. I like that guy. So my best to your family, and thank you for joining me today.
Nice to be.
And here's an outro for you guys.